Hey everybody, John Malanca here with my co-host Natasha Trenev, the founder and president of Natren Probiotics and also known as the mother of probiotics. Hi Natasha.
Good day to you, John. It's a wonderful time when we get together and share our decades of knowledge to help people regain their health.
Yes. So for our audience, thank you. We're back on Candida topic because we've been asked to continue on Candida and yeast in the body, but also weight gain. Why are we gaining weight, and is it associated with Candida in the body? So today's topic is Candida and weight gain, what your gut is trying to tell you. Mother Probiotics, let's get right into it. And for our listeners, thank you for that. And so again, please, we love your comments and your questions because this is why we pick these topics. So,
right. Just so people understand, I've been in the gut field for 56 years with my family, introducing yogurt and liquid acidophilus. So I've worked with the greats. And I think the current generation doesn't really understand how the gut works and why these problems occur. And then we look for Band-Aid solutions that cause more problems than they help. So basically, your 27 feet of GI tract has 100 trillion microbes. Those microbes have to be in a unity with your cellular structure in order for the body to function optimally. So what have we done in the last 40 years? In the 1980s, what happened is that the tobacco companies who were trying to find a new business took all their scientists that addicted people to tobacco and bought out food companies and proceeded to addict us to sugar and other chemicals in the foods, which has led us to this state of chronic disease in our country, which we spend $4.3 trillion on 60% of chronically ill people and about, 80% of chronically ill people and about 60% of chronically ill children. So what does that sugar addiction lead to? So sugar is addictive because we have microbes in our gut that want that sugar for themselves so that they can dominate their territory in your GI tract. It's as simple as that. So when yeast is about 10% or less in your gut, it does not overgrow and become nasty. And most people don't understand this, that yeast organisms can change shapes and soil organisms can change shapes. And other organisms, even if they can't change shapes, they can become aggressive because they're allowed to overgrow. Because remember, the objective of every microbe is to multiply its own kind and dominate its territory. So understanding that, when our diet became strictly processed foods and sugar, what was it feeding? It was feeding the yeast that should be under normal control, 10% or less. But when the yeast is allowed to overgrow, it starts performing very bad things in our GI tract that compromise our health. And it's not just my opinion. It was the opinion of the former head of the World Health Organization, Dr. Constantini, who talked about with two other German doctors about that fungal overgrowth is the cause of all disease in the body. Not my statement, his statement. So having said this, what happens? When Candida is allowed to overgrow, it starts attacking the pancreatic cells. Why does it attack the pancreatic cells? It doesn't want the pancreas to effectively produce the right amount of insulin that our cells can absorb to produce energy. It wants to stifle or break the production of insulin because it does not want the blood sugar in the blood to go low. Why? Because it wants the sugar for itself. It does feed from the sugar in the blood, and it starts playing with the body's system to make sure it's getting ample sugar for it to start dominating more territory in your 27 feet of GI tract. And by the way, if you spread out your small intestine, it would cover a tennis court. So you can imagine all the nooks and crannies where this yeast can overgrow. So what the yeast does is it starts producing chemicals. One of the chemicals that yeast produces is alcohol to eliminate competition. Most people don't know that alcohol is a production of yeast to control its territory. And besides producing alcohol, it can produce other toxins or other things that can make you very moody, can upset your hormone level, can cause weight gain. This is what people don't understand. When your body starts craving sugar because the yeast is inducing you to crave sugar, you start eating more sugar, and that sugar converts into fat. Fat does not convert into fat in the body. Fat only converts into fat when it's accompanied by sugar. So sugar is the one that adds the fat, and the Candida doesn't care, because if it kills you slowly, it's still, benefiting from dominating your body. So what happens is that those pancreatic cells become damaged. And when those pancreatic cells become damaged, it's a very bad news for your body, because your pancreas is producing too much insulin. So when the cells in the body are exposed to too much insulin, they start absorbing it. In other words, they break the system. And that leads to inflammation of the pancreas, which we call pancreatitis. And that in turn will lead possibly to cancer of the pancreas. People don't understand the explosion of pancreatic cancer that started in the 1980s, which coincides with the addition of all these sugars in the processed food that they were selling us. Nobody makes that connection. So this is, hurting a lot of us. Then when we have this problem with too much blood sugar in the bloodstream, we then start taking medication. What do? We talked about Ozempic last week, but let's bring that in. People look for simple solutions to very complex problems, and then they accumulate more problems instead of solving the problem in the first. So Ozempic originally was a diabetes drug. And a diabetes drug usually has to do with something lowering the blood sugar in the blood. But if you don't tackle the cause of the blood sugar in the blood, which is the Candida overgrowth that's causing the body to, crave more sugar, you don't solve the problem. So what does Ozempic do? It actually starts controlling the hormone that we talked about last week that controls appetite, that controls digestion, and controls blood sugar. And how does it do that? It forces the body to make mistakes. The body assumes it's full, so the body starts starving itself. That's what Ozempic does. It's another form of anorexia, but it's a self-induced anorexia by a drug, not by your perception of what you look like in the mirror, which is what anorexia is. So when you start starving your body, of course your blood sugar is going to go down. But what does that starvation of your body entail? It entails you paralyzing your stomach, not to drop the food to feed you. And when the disruption happens, you can have such severe constipation. You have something called an intestinal obstruction, which most people don't know. That's fecal matter so hard that it can't move in your intestine. So they have to open up the intestines there to take out the obstruction so you don't die. And to me, I don't understand how people don't even think about this, that the body was designed to process food, to take out all the nutrients of the food through the 27 feet and go across the intestinal wall without it disturbing the 80% of the immune cells that are there, so that the body can replenish 10 million cells every minute. That's what's called healthy. So when we start fooling around with these systems, we get to this horrible stage of problems. You may lose weight using Ozempic, but you also will lose muscle mass, bone mass. And guess what? The reason a lot of these anorexic people were dying is because your heart is the biggest muscle you have in your body. Okay. So if you starve your body and it's not able to replenish itself on a daily basis, where you lose 10 million cells a minute and every year your body rebuilds itself, you start having a problem, because you can have a heart attack. You definitely will get pancreatitis if you don't stop this, because the pancreas is just going to go crazy now, because it's getting different signals. It's being starved on one side, and then it's being manipulated by the Candida to produce more insulin. And so it's like breaking your car. If you keep flooding your car with fluid that it can't, go through the engine, your car will stop. That's basically what happens to the body. So what we have to do is stop with the nonsense. It is very difficult, and I know because I've been in this field for 40 years, to get rid of Candida overgrowth, because when you get Candida overgrowth, it literally changes its shape and becomes a very aggressive pathogen. And it does not want to lose control of its territory, so it'll punish you. When you don't have the sugar, it'll punish you by secreting chemicals to make you want the sugar. In fact, the sugar cravings were reported to me when I was doing television shows about 15 years ago to be so bad as to mimic when a person was coming off of heroin. That's how bad some of these sugar cravings were, that you were miserable, people were crying, they were cramping, they were not able to go to the bathroom. The results were horrific. So what I have figured out in 40 years of doing this, that you need to have the right probiotic organisms grown under the right conditions so that they're able to tackle this now new and stronger Candida in this new shape, which is causing the problem. It's a mold shape that the Candida takes, and it takes over your body. So you have to do it slowly, because if you do it too fast, you're not going to be able to survive the consequences. You have to also go on a low carbohydrate diet, and you may have to use a number of natural anti-Candida compounds. And then when your body is rid of the overgrowth of Candida, it's never going to get rid of Candida, then it can start utilizing food as a fuel, and your weight will start coming down, because you're not going to be overeating, because you're looking for that sugar fix, which the Candida wants and punishes you when you don't give it to it. So I try to explain this basically what happens. And so people need to think, when they think there's a quick solution to a complex problem, you create other problems that make your life miserable. So I think what we have to do is come back to basics. There's confusion in the dietary supplement field. There's thousands of labels of probiotics, which nobody oversees or regulates. There's so much misinformation that people really just don't know what to believe or what not to believe. Well, I can just tell you, I've been here for 42 years in the probiotic field. I introduced it. I've been in the health food field for 56 years. And believe me, I have heard and seen everything. And until we get serious as a civilization, or as the citizens of this country, you will not solve the chronic disease problem, because there's so much information. There's so much information that's misleading, often not by design, but by ignorance, that we are not getting better. My question to everyone is, after 56 years of health concepts, why don't we have a healthier country?
You have a lot of information here on our little podcast here. Thinking about all that you're talking about, I'm thinking about my health, friends' health, my friends' kids' health, and other friends that I have that are going through this with weight gain. Back in 2010, when I started my company, I have a naturopath, and I had all my blood work tested, and it changed my whole. I'm an athlete. I've stayed healthy my whole life. At that time, launching a company and being at my computer, I did blood tests. I had Candida. How did I get Candida? Candida, it doesn't discriminate who it can attack from a healthy individual. Mm-hmm. But my sugar increase happened. My fatigue led to bloating. My adrenals were maxed out. And so when I started doing, and even mood swings, anxiety, not being able to sleep, trying to launch a company. So that's when I was turned on to probiotics. And so I have seen a lot of success with this after, what are we now, 14, 15 years of being on probiotics. I've been able to bring my body back to balance, which Candida and weight gain can do. The digestive issues with Candida and the sugar it's a domino effect, leads from sugar intake. You're tired, you eat more sugar. You're tired, you eat more sugar just to get that little rush. But the digestive, it has overgrowth in the stomach, but also leads to bloating, fatigue. Now your mood, your hormonal imbalances, both for men and women. People don't realize men have hormonal imbalance as well. But the toxic production in Candida can also affect your liver, as well as slow metabolism. And that's where I was, I think, my slow metabolism. And so when I received all my blood work, I said, goodness gracious, I'm going to change all that. One thing that changed, they could tell that with all the high stress and just sitting, that I was only using half capacity in my lungs because I was sitting all day. As you see today, I've been standing for 15 years. I'm in a stand-up desk, but my weight dropped. I brought everything back to balance. And so my adrenals aren't as maxed out as they were then. So with that, in a good probiotic, can help bring the Candida, fix that and bring your body back to balance with the short amount of time. And I know you have a lot of information, and thank you for, I don't want to say dumbing it down, because your probiotic knowledge is here, mine's here, and the majority of our listeners are down here. And so we don't want to say it's a get quick fix pill, take a pill and you're going to be healed. There's a lot that comes along with this of bringing, weight loss, but also Candida. But you can see the domino effect from the digestive, fatigue, adrenal blast, as well as other issues, weight gain, of course, and other issues in your body, because you say it is a fine-tuned machine, 27 feet of intestine to, reach from end to end of a tennis court. That's pretty amazing. Back to the Ozempic, to bring it back to reality, the food in your system that's just sitting there in your gut is just rotting away. And as Natasha said, some patients now are forced to have surgeries to remove that because it's such blockage. Again, just picture a blocked sink. It just piling on top, where you need to have a professional come in there. And so hopefully you're not at that stage. For Candida overgrowth, in probiotics, what can you share with our audience? Because these questions do come in. You have to go slow. First of all, I have offered for many years a free low carbohydrate diet. Anything that's a low carbohydrate diet that you consume, where you limit the amount of any kind of sugar, even a good sugar from honey. Many Candida diets wouldn't even permit any breads that had yeast in them, nothing that had yeast in it. It was, now some of these diets are not that strict, and that's why they're not working. So you have to have a diet program. You have to have an exercise program, which I have on the site. It's a free walking exercise. You can have both of those free of charge. I'm not here to sell you anything, but I can just tell you my Megadophilus, which was the first probiotic ever introduced and still unique. Nobody has anything like the Megadophilus, has been successful in treating vaginal yeast. Now, vaginal yeast is not any different than intestinal yeast. Yeast is yeast. And if the probiotic can produce enough compounds to inhibit the yeast and make it go away, that's what you want. You want to start a slow process. And then I think you start with the Megadophilus and the bifidobacter. We have it in the vegan, dairy-free. You start with 1 teaspoon of each. You mix it in water. You drink it before each meal. And anytime you have a problem where you're feeling terrible, I tell people, mix another batch in 6 or 8 ounces of unchilled, filtered water and put a straw in it. Sip it slowly. Give your body, because believe it or not, the data is now supporting my philosophy that the microbiome can change from every 4 to 6 hours, depending on your mood, depending on what you're eating. So it is important to keep doing this throughout the day. And, then once you do this for a couple of weeks, then you start adding the antifungal agents like really good quality oregano oil. You can use other things to kill Candida. You have to find the things that works for you. Now the Candida is so clever. You have to use multiple anti-candidal agents to get rid of the Candida. But whatever you're using to get rid of the Candida, you have to follow it in 2 hours with that mixture I told you of the Megadophilus and the bifidobacter. It's going to take you a while before you can even take the Healthy Trinity, because the Healthy Trinity is so powerful that the die-off is so bad that people, just say, oh my God, I can't take it. So I go easy because most people can't deal with the die-off. And then when you're able to take even 1 capsule of Healthy Trinity, means you're starting to win the battle. Okay. So, and that's why I have people that have worked with me for more than 20 years on the phones. We're not there just hyping, telemarketing, selling you.
We're really there to help you customize a protocol to help start dealing with this, because weight loss will occur when you reduce the stress, when you start meditation, when you become a more spiritual person. Because, just to explain what stress is, people talk about stress, but they don't understand what it is. Stress means your body's in a fight or flight mode. And it doesn't matter if you're being chased by a saber-toothed tiger or something terrible that's happening to you mentally. So all your blood flow goes to the extremities. Guess what happens when your blood flow goes to the extremities? There's nothing left to repair the function of your intestines, the nourishment of your body, the support of your immune system. Nothing gets taken care of. So you have unrelenting stress. Your body is not being taken care of. And that's why you start having a host of problems that Western medicine just labels as autoimmune disease, insufficient immunity, constipation, diarrhea. Those are all symptoms that the body is not working in harmony. The body needs to work in harmony with 100 trillion cells that are in your GI tract and your digestive system. It all has to work in a unity, in a harmony. Otherwise, we're going to just keep going with these chronic diseases where we put these Band-Aids on and we're not getting better.
Well, I think we come to our end of our time right now.
Yep.
But you mentioned your team at your office that aren't telemarketers. They're here to answer, take calls. The number 1-866-4 Natren, Natren. Natasha has generously offered a discount code of GUT25 for 25% off. Ask for Susan. Susan's a wealth of information. She's been with your company, I believe, 28 years.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for your knowledge. And a little tidbit that I'd like to share with our audience. Today's a special day. It's happy anniversary to Natasha and her beautiful husband, Jordan, for 56 years.
54. 54. We're working at 56.
56. We'll be back here in a couple of years to redo this one here.
Yeah.
But 54 years of love, happiness, marriage, as well as friendship. Yeah. So I wish you another 54 years of beautiful life together. That's what life is about. And God bless you for finding that special man and that partner, your life partner as well. So thank you for all you do, Natasha. For our audience, wishing you a health and happiness. And if you have any questions, please reach out to Natasha or her team. They're here to help. And again, if you have questions, please submit your questions that you'd like us to cover, as well as if you have any questions that we can answer here right on the show directly. So thank you all. Natasha, have a blessed day and celebrate the love and your beautiful husband what you have built in life. So thank you, and we'll see you all again soon.
Have a wonderful day.
You as well.